What's going on, traders? Welcome to another video with Digital Goatz Academy. I think everybody knows who I am, and this is live trading. So, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is open up Bloomberg. Are we showing Bloomberg? No, well, let's look at the charts first, right? So I threw out a potential buy for yesterday. For US 30, we had that drop off that happened between Tuesday and Wednesday. So we did create support down here, but we are approaching opening bell, right? So what we normally expect for opening bell to do, unless there's like news that can like kind of change that narrative, we expect opening bell to bring us down. Now it just depends on how strong it gets brought down because what normally we expect for opening bell to do, because we are looking at buys, because the market is in the uptrend, we're expecting opening bell to bring us down to a level of support, right? So that's what it did between Monday and Tuesday. It brought us all the way back down to the level of support that we needed or the area that we were going to establish support at, which was at the previous level of resistance. So if I take, I know there's a lot going on here. But if you just look for where price is at, we broke out of this high that we're current. Well, we broke out of this high over here. Price decided to come back and test this high this week. We broke out of this high last week, and then we're doing our pullback for this week. So that makes all the sense in the world when it comes to looking at regular market structure. Price should break out, come back down, test the area that it broke out of, and then buy back up from there. So based off of that information, we're expecting US 30 to continue to rise. But again, we have to see what opening bell does because the only thing is that we had 8:30 news come out. That was good. That news brought us up. So if opening bell is going to bring us down, it shouldn't be that aggressive. Now, that's in orientation to US 30. For S&P and NASDAQ, it may be a little bit different. I did see areas that price could push back to, but if we're looking at US 30 to possibly pull back during opening bell, I would say that it would come back either to test this level or at the lowest test this level, which I'm not thinking. I'm thinking that we establish our support right here. And if we're doing anything, probably like a shallow pullback. But these are actual areas that we bought up from. So as you can see, this was my earlier entry. So, I had to take the drawdown and then I bought again here. And as you can see, both of these right now, both of these positions are in profit. But again, we're approaching opening bell. So I expect opening bell to try to bring us down just slightly. As you can see from this previous week, well, in the beginning of this week, opening bell pretty much brought us down for the entire week, which was good because I mean, I wasn't looking for a sell, but at the same time, this was good because I'd rather us do this pullback now than to try to do it later sometime in October. So again, it's still sticking with what we know as market structure, right? NASDAQ, same thing. NASDAQ, I expected to break this area. As you can see, NASDAQ pushed lower than that. Was this the high? Where did we establish this from? Oh, we established this from based off of thinking that price was gonna respect this area, which it did, and then sold off here. So I remember we were looking at this area to buy back up. Now that we're returning here, even though price dropped a lot lower, well, we did speak about that. We said that we wanted to see NASDAQ push lower to only to fill this gap in. It did that. US, well, NASDAQ and S&P both filled their gaps made from last Thursday. So I expect price, now that we've been back up, if you're looking at this resistance, I expect price to break this. So I expect us to buy up today. And again, everything's based off of how opening bell reacts, which is in like 25 minutes. Opening bell comes out, might get a shallow pullback, or you might even get a pullback all the way back down here. I don't think there's any cause for concern if you know how to manage indices. So we'll see. There is news coming out at 10 o'clock. I'm thinking that because we had news come out at 8:30, now follow along with me. So I don't care about like what the news necessarily is, unless I'm familiar with it. And what I mean is that like ADP employment, I knew that to bring the market down, right? So I use that information in my analysis. So if it does the opposite, that's what I roll with. You see what I'm saying? So ADP employment, it's not coming out today. I'm just using that as an example. So we have, and you can't guess like what the news is going to do. You can't say, oh, the news should be positive. You can only see how the news reacts in orientation to your analysis, but also into how the market is overall flowing. So whatever the trend is, the news may just add some sporadic behavior, but ultimately the news should still guide it in that direction. It's just going to try to throw, a monkey wrench at somebody in order to try to get you out of your position. So for what we're seeing right now, based off of the line chart, the structure is sound, and we should be continuing to buy up. We just need to get past opening bell. I would say 9:45 would be probably the better opportunity to look for a potential entry if you weren't all the way down here. And as you can see, we've already been buying with NASDAQ. Hell, I think that this is an inverted head and shoulder, this whole pattern, but we're just going to stick to that it's ranging. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to try to create something that isn't there. Because that's, well, I mean, you can, because if it violates it, you can still use that information, but we're focused on just basic market structure, not trying to add any patterns, just understanding, okay, we look at the higher time frame. The only thing we've been doing is, if you want to say consolidating, I just say ranging because it's on a higher time frame. And ranges are the only time frame that, I mean, ranges are the only patterns in the market that you can like buy and sell from. You can't do that with consolidation, but a ranging market, yeah, you can. So we mentioned this. We mentioned that S&P, NASDAQ would start to range, right? After creating support. So even here, we're looking at it on a higher time frame. These are areas we identified. This was the support. And again, remember we've talked about how the market has like a leading move or a guiding trend. So this would be that. Let me break it down with a line chart. So this would be that guiding move, and this would be the support structure needed in order to push up. So we see this a lot. I pointed this out with US 30 a lot between last year and this year, but we're seeing it with NASDAQ as well. Again, a lot of the indices, you know, play off of each other. They do a lot of the same movements or patterns. You can identify them within each of the indices. It's not going to be exact, but you see it. You're like, okay, I remember when S&P did this, this was the reaction. I remember when US 30 did this, this was the outcome. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, support was established here. We just want to see how Open and Bell is going to react. So far, so good for what we're seeing. Yeah, I definitely like what I'm seeing. I just want us to break this high, close above, and these are our actual targets for US 30. I'm thinking that US 30 is going to go higher than this, but let's not be super greedy. This could be the day where US 30 just pops up. What would be the pip count? If we look at, so we'll treat this as the bottom of the week. So this is technically the low that was made for the week. So US 30, like if you're looking at minimum, you're probably looking at 15,000 pips. And then max, you're probably looking at, it can go as high as I've seen 40,000 pips in 1 week. I didn't see that. I was like on the receiving end of that. I mean, or maybe like parcels of it. That's the max I've seen. The max average would have been like 20,000 pips. So that puts us closer to 54. If I'm just saying, if Price were to do this, it would have to make this move between today and tomorrow, which that would be a big move. Could be possible. But if Price were to do this move, we're probably looking at ending up at 54,75, 54,075. But again, let's just go off of like the smaller moves that US 30, we know US 30 can make. US 30 can move and easily 5,000 to 7,000 pips. That's like easily. So you should expect, not to say that you're not going to try to get a sniper entry, but you should expect, if you're not keen on your entries, that US 30 will pull back at least 5,000 pips on you, which means that's a $500 drawdown. That's if your entry's off, you know what I'm saying? Or if you're just in the wrong direction overall. Okay. So we have, what is that? 19 minutes to opening bell. So NASDAQ is making its move. Remember, NASDAQ tends to have a mind of its own. So I expect NASDAQ to show probably more strength than US 30 and S&P. S&P has been closely in relation to NASDAQ. So they tend to move this year almost exactly alike, damn near. You can probably go to NASDAQ and identify exactly where S&P bought up from. So S&P, remember we were discussing this candle over here on the 4 hour time frame. Reason why we were discussing discussing that candle. It's early, my bad. But the reason why we were discussing this candle is because this was an imbalanced candle. Now, we did need to have price establish some type of structure to it. I was thinking that we might drop a little bit lower, but we didn't. We established support at the high of this candle because I was looking at price to pretty much come down and test this 38% or 50%. And this is what I was just talking about with one of my calls, like how when we start, we're heading into the third quarter, right? We're in the third quarter now. So the things that were relevant in the second quarter may not be prominent in this quarter because when we're expecting price to come back to these levels, these areas that we identify, in a regular Forex pair, price would do that. But when it comes to indices, it's already made up its mind. So for me, wherever indices have created any form of structure at, whether that's support or resistance, I roll with that. So we're already seeing slight pullbacks. It looks like US 30 might be getting ready to pull back. Now, I'm not looking for us to, you know, drive down too deep. But if that's what happens, then one, make sure your stop is in profit. We already bought it from here, but you would make sure your stop is in profit. Um, but also understand that US 30, S&P, NASDAQ, indices in general, they will test areas multiple times before lifting off. But just because you see like a pullback on a candle, that doesn't mean like it's a reversal or a sell. But we're expecting that. Here we have is a morning star pattern, and that's next to the consolidation zone that we broke from. So this was consolidation. That makes sense. That candle looks kind of weird how that formation is. So this is the morning star pattern right here. And not as strong as I would like it to be or not as clear. Let me see if I could see it on a different time frame. If you count the 45-minute, I just saw a pattern that I'm familiar with. Okay, so this is a pattern right here. I gotta find it where it presents three bear candles and then brings a bullish engulfing. So that's a buy pattern right there. So even though we're not seeing the morning star pattern, that's still a buy pattern. I think that's called like the three kings or something. There's so many patterns out there that you can, utilize. And again, it's not going to be clear to you. You don't want to try to guess the pattern. You want to identify it when you believe you see it and then see how price reacts off of that information. So yeah, struggling to buy. Remember, we said that as long as oil is selling off, indices should rise. Now, oil is pushing down slightly. Since we hit that zone, if you remember what we were discussing at the either over weekly review or sometime the beginning of this week, we mentioned this candle specifically right here. I said that I believe that price will, if it does break this resistance over here, which it did, it will try to target this candle and test the low of this candle, which as you can see, currently we have. Tested the low of the candle, which puts us at 23%, which we could establish that this is resistance now. right here, draw it back. So this is our new level of resistance right now, currently for oil. And as long as oil remains the middle, as long as oil remains selling, that's what I do want it to be. That's great. That's why. There we go. So as long as oil remains selling, indices will begin to rise. So I know we had some kind of uncertainty when it came to like what's going on in the Middle East. That I know the US did just do some strikes on Iran. I didn't like really do any more like investigation on it, but that obviously would have a negative reaction in the market. But what we're seeing, and I think that's where that buy came from. So remember, we hit this gap. So with US oil, we hit that gap that we made from February when the market got dumb bullish, basically the start of the war, um, or the start of the conflict, if you want to say. And we pushed back to that gap. Remember, I discussed that we'll probably bounce off that gap and treat it as if it's support, but we'll probably try to target this set candle over here. And then now that we're looking at it on a daily, look at that, 50% of this candle right here, and we've already started selling off. And we're seeing that we're selling. And as we're seeing that we're selling, we're seeing that indices are beginning to rise as well against the sell of US oil. So US oil currently is at 73.04. So, you start to see it at 72, you should see indices rise. And they're not going to be in like sequence with each other where it's like indices just start taking off. But for sure, once we start seeing oil sell off, we'll start to see a rise in indices. I mean, we're already seeing it now. And now I think that that's going to give rise to cryptocurrency also. So just waiting for opening bell basically. So for gold, now there's been conflicting arguments within my own trading community that people believe gold is buying. So this is support that I identified, and I'm not sure if gold is ready to buy. What I'm looking at overall is that we've been bullish on gold for like a while. Now, I don't trade gold like that, but at the same time, I watch this move happen. We've been bullish for a while to have no type of like correction whatsoever, no type of give back in the market. And then when you even look at this support structure doesn't even look sound to me, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? When I go out to different time frames, I tried to look at it and it's like, that doesn't look sound to me. True, price will probably react as if it's trying to buy up. We mentioned that. So price should probably try to buy up, but we have this gap here. What I'm thinking is that we're going to target this gap and then try to sell off from there in order to establish a swing low back at where we bought up from, or broke out from. So this is consolidation. As you can see, I believe the same thing when it comes to gold, any forex pair, that consolidation is going to attract it, or a currency pair like this is going to be attracted to consolidation. So if it comes down here, more than likely what we're going to do is test probably into it instead of the high and try to get some of this liquidity down here. That would make more sense to me instead of gold just rising. Now, again, I'm not super familiar with how, because again, that was a shocker how it moved from basically 2025, 2023. Well, no. Yeah, all of last year. What's this last year? Yeah, all of last year. I was just super surprised how price moved all of last year. Yeah, that was all of last year, yeah. So now it's ready to have its give back. You know what I'm saying? Banks are ready to collect. Create some form of structure, and then there'll be an opportunity for new investors. Like I said, I'm thinking lower than I am thinking higher. So if anything, I would like to see price come back 29, like 2,900. That may be far-fetched, but the area that I'm targeting initially is 3,500. I can see that before a buy up, but we'll have to see. I know there's a lot of traders in the community that are bullish on gold. It is respecting the support right here, but I think that that's going to be, I just think that price is going to come up here to test this, do a quick fake out, and then bring the market down. Because like I said, I don't think that this is sound structure like that we're looking at. I don't think this is strong enough to say that buyers are in. I mean, we did collect this liquidity down here, so we'll see. All right, what do we have? 7 minutes left. And remember, just because of the first reaction of opening bell, that doesn't mean you get all bent out of shape. You know what I'm saying? One, we're expecting the market might be brought down. So it's a good thing that price is buying up right now. So this would be, once we reach here, these targets will become my buy entry because I think prices is going to blow through these. I don't think if we do get our pullback, then price is probably going to pull back after it breaks out of this resistance because this is pretty strong resistance right here. So if we were to break out of this, then price will probably try to return like after pushing and breaking out here, or maybe even after it hits this resistance, it may want to come back to either test this zone or come back and test this zone. 1 minute left on this 30-minute candle.
A bit of a safe haven. Good to have so much of your manufacturing base centered on one.
Fourteen seconds. It is opening bell right now. So you see that rejection? That's basically what we be looking for, a rejection like that. But again, it could be like minor, it could be big. We kind of gotta wait for price to clear out around 9:45. We do have news that comes out at 10 a.m. So Still testing that level of resistance right now. So NASDAQ actually is rising up. S&P, well, it's 10 minutes. Still need more movement. Oh, look at oil. Oil's down to 72.93. Hold off till 9:45 and then we'll close our session from here. Remember, we still utilize the 9:45 a.m. candle to kind of identify what the market is trying to do the rest of the day. Let me see. Yeah, had I paid attention to this, I would have been able to see that price was selling. And only time we don't do it on the 45 minute, we do it on the 15-minute time frame. So yeah, had I freaking where's 9:45 at? 9:30, 9:45. So you see that price push through. Okay, so this makes sense. So you can see that price closed below this and didn't even test it. We did like a shallow pullback. So we could be testing this resistance or this area for a while before price actually pushes up from it once we reach this area again. So just keep that in mind, that we could hit this area and try to reject it multiple times before pushing up. Yeah, NASDAQ is moving, but US 30 is taking its sweet time. NASDAQ and S&P are moving in the direction that we expected. So this is what we wanted to see US 30 do, but US 30 normally takes its sweet ass time. I think it's waiting for that news that we have at 10 a.m., that housing news. And then who knows? I'm not sure if Trump is speaking right now. Let me actually look at that, make sure.
And making shifts on the margin and rebalancing like we have been, really.
Okay, so that's why quote unquote chip makers are what did they just say? Stocks got a boost because chip makers are investing in chip stocks more. You see? Stocks get boost from chip makers as oil steadies.
Has been helpful.
That's what Bloomberg has an analyst speaking about right now. So you see oil is coming down, but it's still struggling. US 30 is still struggling. NASDAQ is boosting. So NASDAQ and S&P, it makes sense based off of what that headline just said. Dow Jones is probably going to take a little bit more to push it up. But right now, we're just consolidating right now. As you can see, we do US 30 has been doing that a lot this year, consolidating and then pushing up a buy on the opposite side. So anytime we've had any major sell, it'll start consolidating and then push up a buy on the opposite side. So that's what I'm still rolling with. Let's go, NASDAQ. Let's go. I'm actually in NASDAQ this time around. And you see how that resistance that we drew for US 30, price actually respected it. So price treated this as resistance, but that doesn't necessarily mean that sellers are in. It just means that that's what price is going to do. It's going to respect these levels that we're at. So whether it's support or resistance, it's going to treat it as such. That doesn't mean that it's the overall move. So it's a good thing we drew that there to identify. And again, as long as we expect opening bell to bring us down, you shouldn't have no issue. Even if you bought it from here, like that was a shallow pullback. I would expect price to try to come back and test this area before buying back up. But that's what opening bell did. It brought us down exactly what we expected. We don't know where it's going to bring us down to. We have areas that or points of interest that we can identify, but other than that, you just say price should bring me down if I'm looking for buys. Wherever it lands, not wherever it lands. Obviously, you want to do market structure or a structural analysis, but finding where that structure is at, where that support level is at. So hopefully you have markups on your charts, not any that's distracting, but where you can clearly say, okay, I can see that price is probably trying to establish support here or, respecting this resistance, yada, yada. Because we break this again, then is this still resistance? No. We're already breaking resistance that we have on S&P and NASDAQ. We just need US 30. US 30 after it made that high of 53, um, at 53K, it has not been trying to break it. And we may be heading into a range for US 30. That's why I identified that area where price may try to continuously push down from this zone over here because we have that 945 candle established on a 15-minute time frame. Might try to push down from this zone over here. Every time we get up here, price may try to treat this as resistance. So just be careful of that. You know what I'm saying? But these are the things that we want to see. It's slow. When I'm looking for buys, I expect the market to kind of be hesitant like this because, of course, when it's selling, it is fucking selling. You know what I'm saying? It is selling when it's like nobody's business. But as of right now, these are the things we want to see. So 9:45 is in 2 minutes. Let's see how US 30 reacts. S&P and NASDAQ are doing, like I said, what we want to see. US oil is coming down in price as far as like for what we saw, $73 a barrel. It's at 72.80, 79 right now. Gold is popping up. So yeah. We just need US 30 to have its big breakthrough, which it probably will do after 10 a.m. But we'll see. US 30 can still be an oddball. And unless something happens as far as like a powerful figure says something that can change the conditions of the market, we should be seeing this for what it is. Support is being created, so we just need price to break this high in order to establish that, yes, this is a buy. I mean, we already felt comfortable with buys, but you know. So it's 944. Let me see what 945, like how it opens up. Now remember, you don't just like when you get to the 945 candle, you need to wait for it to close within that 15-minute time period. So after it opens, wait, hold on. Yeah, after it opens, it still needs to close to give you directional bias. And you see how the market reacts after that move. So like Monday, we would have been able to clearly see that that was a buy. I mean a sell. I knew that that was a sell, but once price did this, and then, you know, as we make more data, price starts showing you different visuals. So I knew that was a sell once I saw it here. Once I got here, I was like, this isn't strong enough. Then price shut the fuck down. Which is okay, you know what I mean? Like areas that we identified. Okay, it's 9:45. So, like I said, after it forms, you box it up and see how price responds after that, or reacts after that. It stays above that zone that you create, price is buying up. You'll need a pullback. We didn't have a pullback for this move on the selling side, so that's why I'm saying that price may come back up here and want to play around a little bit. Um, yeah, and just see how price reacts, you know, after the 9:45 after the 9:45 a.m. candle on the 15-minute time frame. So as you can see, it's doing its thing right now. Once it closes, then you can box it up, extend it, see if price is staying above that zone. Maybe you get a pullback. If it's like how Monday was, you probably won't get that pullback, but you should probably get the pullback. And that confirms that yes, price is buying up. So that's all I got, traders, man. I hope everybody has been having a successful week. Um, you know, we had that monstrous sell, but at the beginning of the week we started off bullish, so it still is showing us that buyers are in the market. So I feel like nobody should be confused. If you want to take those sells, you're more than welcome to, but me, I'm sticking true to the overall trend, which is an uptrend. And the only thing I'm thinking right now is that price is just, you know, ranging or consolidating to get traders, you know, to force them out of their positions. But that's all I got, traders. Like I said, I hope y'all made a bunch of money. I hope y'all had a successful week this week. This is everything we've been discussing. So if you've been tuning into our videos, make sure one, you hit that like button, comment, and subscribe, but also just lock in, you know what I'm saying? Because we've been doing this weekly. We've been showing that price is buying up. Every time we've seen a sell, price has been buying up. So we have the directional bias, you know what I'm saying? We have the position set up. It's just all about execution. But I'm Antoine Farrar as always. Catch you on on the next video with Digital Goatz Academy. Peace.